Today, I'm going to go into the story of how I severely popped out of ketosis and what it took to get back in. For those who have been following me for a while know that I used to be a pro skateboarder. I used to live in Europe. Det är därför jag pratar svenska och lite grann. I speak a little Swedish because of living in Sweden. Moved back to California, specifically Los Angeles, even more specific, Hollywood. And I lived that life. And I went out and I did the Hollywood parties and did all of that. And I felt like an empty shell. I did. So somewhere along the line, I was riding my bike to the gym and riding my bike everywhere, and I thought I was getting enough vitamin D, and I was still bored. So I got a horse. And the horse was amazing. His name is Thunder. He's a rescue. But when the world flipped upside down, or it was flipping for a while, but I didn't notice it until 3 years ago with the whole charade of Rona Bona. Yeah. And I was in California, and I noticed the population of people sleeping outside on the street had multiplied by 5 billion. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I knew it. I felt it in my gut. So I left, and I took my big-ass horse, and I went to Texas. And I went to Texas because, well, it's Texas. It's horse country. And I wanted to get connected back to nature. That was one of the worst times that I popped out of ketosis. I had to get rid of a bunch of stuff and then pack, then get rid of a bunch of horse stuff because he was at a boarding facility, pack. And I'm going to have the manager go through a walkthrough of my apartment. And then I drove over to the ranch, and then a walkthrough of the horse barn, and then get Thunder on a big rig diesel truck to be transported to Texas, and then I would take off and start driving off to Texas. But the problem is that Thunder was not used to being trailered in a trailer. In fact, we couldn't get him in. I mean, he was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going into that dark creature. I'm not. And it was just, I was already exhausted. I didn't realize I had so much crap that I had to get rid of all the crap, and then I had all this horse crap, and I'm just throwing stuff away. I even lost a bunch of stuff in the process of throwing things away. And this horse would not get in, and it took 3 hours. There was like 12 people trying to push him, shove him, put ropes around the back of his leg, force him in, and he's like, I'm not going. Now you gotta understand, like, we're homeless. I have no more home. I'm quit my contract at the boarding facility, and this sucker won't go in. I was so exhausted, I was delusional, and now my horse will not go into the trailer. So there was a lot of problems. The woman who would transport him on a smaller trailer to the diesel truck, she didn't know what she was doing. She was in the middle of the street. Traffic was going by, and he's like, no. I was like, no. And everybody was pulling on him, and he literally hoofed the ground, pounded, and was like, no. We even tried to get another horse in first that he loved to then encourage him. He's like, that won't work. Yeah, it was awful. It was really bad. Someone said, hey, call Tom, this old freaking 90-something-year-old cowboy. Here's this old scrawny man drove up, and he said, you guys are trying too hard and stressing him out. Only she can actually pull him in. He trusts her, me. And he took a little crop whip, and he just tapped Thunder on the butt like a feather. Tap, 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 tap. And he kept tapping until Thunder finally acquiesced and he gave in. And I pulled and he walked right on in and we shut the gate and we drove off because the company said, if you do not get that horse in that truck in 30 minutes, we're leaving. And it took a month to get this booking. So you can imagine my stress was bazonkers. And for those who don't know who my horse is, I'll show you right now this big ass guy. And that's the big ass horse. He's actually a little thick right now. He would not go in that trailer. So they tapped him on the rear. He tapped him, the old man. As you see where his tail is, tap, tap, tap. Below the tail, on the back of his thighs. And then I pulled him by the neck and then he popped right on in. And that's my fur baby husband child. And he's a rescue and he is the love of my life. And the reason why you see that beautiful background right there on my new land, he's the reason why I am here. I got into my vehicle probably around 9:30 or 10 at night and drove on no sleep and drove because my point was to get to Texas before Thunder arrived, and they had 2 drivers, so one could sleep and one could drive, and there was just me driving. And I made it 20 minutes before him. It was like the best moment of my life. They opened up the diesel truck. He saw me. He went, and we let him out. And what I knew would happen was the fear. It was humid. It's very hard to breathe in humid weather when you're not used to it, like overnight. He was stressed out. The neighborhood he was boarded at in California, he knew it like the back of his hand or hoof. We could go riding 5 hours in the mountains. I could blindfold myself and he could find his way back. I don't care how, 2 days driving in the California mountains and he'd find his way back. But here he couldn't, so the fear was out of control in the beginning. And this is when I popped out of ketosis hardcore. I remember the next morning after arriving to Texas, I felt so grateful that Thunder had made it okay. I was okay, but I was so tired. It was like a level of tired I hadn't felt in so many years. And I just thought, it's because of just a lot of stress and trying to leave and no sleep and driving on no sleep. But this persisted day after day after day of being there. And that, at that time, it took about a month for me to get back into ketosis. The feeling of hypoglycemia was out of this world. In the afternoon, I was like, I literally couldn't keep my eyes open. It was awful. And it reminded me how much carbs suck. But as the days progressed of being in Texas and things calmed down, sort of, I started popping back into ketosis. I could focus. I wasn't so exhausted. I wasn't sleepy all the time. And then I was just cranking along, being back in ketosis, getting my wits about me. And then I decided I had enough of Texas. And I decided to come to Tennessee. I found property here. And then came the stress of driving from Texas to Tennessee, back to Texas, back to Tennessee, looking at land. It was exciting, but very stressful at the same time because of the transportation guy I paid, and he backed out at the last minute and delivered my camper, but not the horses. And then this woman ended up transporting them, and she charged me extra, and I couldn't get anybody. It was like all these things. And then all my stuff that I've been dragging across the U.S. had to drag one more time to Tennessee. And then when I arrived in Tennessee, I had no water. I had not enough fencing. I only had 2 acres fenced. I had no home. I mean, I just didn't have anything. And the popping out of ketosis was 50,000 times worse than when I traveled to Texas. I just I could barely function. Literally could barely function. But because I'd gone through this twice before, and recently from California to Texas, I was like, okay, I'm going to get past this. Yeah, 1 month passed, 2 months passed, and then I got to about the 2.5 mark. And then I started feeling better. What I did to get back into ketosis was a lot, because it just wasn't happening. I literally started cranking up the fat. I mean, I'm just like a whole stick of butter, a whole stick for breakfast, just for breakfast. I was going over the 200 grams of fat, 227 grams of fat coming from a package of Vital Farms now. And just fat, spoons of lard, packages of butter. And then after 2.5 months, I started popping back into ketosis. But literally, I still have not the same kind of stress, because the stress I had at that time was just the runoff of panic to find a home and with big animals. Now my stress is kind of exciting because I'm getting ready to build a house. But I'm just, some of those videos, when I say the gurus lie, some of those videos I was like, energy, I'm so tired. I think you can actually see in some of those videos how tired I was. But yeah, it is pretty easy to pop out of ketosis, and it's a lot of work to get back in, even for a novice person like myself who's been doing this 16 years. Yeah, it's very difficult to get back into ketosis. Once you take your body and you push it that far and stretch it that bad, where the blood sugar is so unstable or it's destabilized, it takes a lot to get back in. If you find yourself popping out of ketosis, probably not the same as myself, but a lot of people will pop out just because they're not eating enough fat, or they eat too much protein, or they drink some wine, or they're having a stressful event in their life. Yeah, these are the reasons how people commonly pop out of ketosis, because they just start eating carbs again, or snacking on a little bit too much fruit, or people who are doing a carnivore diet and then they're like, eat a bunch of fruit, and then people start binging on the fruit and getting that sweet tooth and candida die off and histamine from the fruit. That's a whole nother video. But yeah, my recommendation is to just, if you fall off the horse, just get back on. Just get the food that was bad out, stop drinking the alcohol, stop eating the fruit, the sweet fruit, up your fats, get your stress down, diaphragmatic breathe. You will pop back into ketosis, but you're not going to do it if you literally don't crank up the fat. And that is the key thing, that once you pop out of ketosis, if your gallbladder is working properly, the best thing that works for me is to up the fat to some ungodly high level. And you pop right back in as you moderate your stress. That was my story on how I popped out of ketosis. I really find that doing a keto diet, ketogenic diet, is the best diet for me. I do think that other people would benefit from it as well. I think that carnivore is amazing for the short term. Low carb, high fat people are some people who are dealing with food addictions, hypoglycemia, gallbladder issues, or just people who feel like they need more of a variety, who maybe are less disciplined. But keto omnivore, where you're still eating plants just a little bit, riding the line of carnivore, I think that suits most people the best. Yeah, but you have to be in ketosis. And it's a journey, and it takes a while to get into a state of a deep ketosis and remain in it. But if you pop out like I did, you can pop right back in. If you want to learn more, go to stephanieperson.com, book a consultation. I got your back. You can also go to my Instagram at Stephanie Ketogenic, my Facebook fan page at Stephanie the Business Person. And signups will be starting soon, in about a month, in September. Still working out the website right now. Get ready. It's going to be amazing. I will be working on it right now. And I'm out. Energy. 55, and I'm almost 56. 16 years in ketosis, and life keeps getting better. Peace.